So this Jimmy Dore show was on. Well, I'm not saying it's this Jimmy Dore. The Jimmy Dore show was on. I do watch it quite a lot. But I caught it live. I mean, I have watched it live a few times, but it was just on earlier, and he hasn't even put it up yet. I think they do some editing on it and kind of tidy it up. They don't just put the live ones straight up, or there's not like they don't have a list of live videos. He just edits it into a proper video at a later stage, like in a day or two later. But what it was, this particular episode that was on earlier, there was loads of people in the chat, about 13,000 people. Couldn't really read or keep up with any other people's comments, really. But it was actually probably the most, the most significant video so far, but it's kind of like they're on a little bit of a delay thing. Always making loads of points about YouTube and political rights and so forth, but they always actually get onto the main point. And Jimmy Dore Show is kind of like one of those programs that kind of is like on the ball with it, but not quite saying exactly the things that I kind of like want them to say, or would like them to say, to be a little bit more like precise, to hit the bullseye a bit more, or the triple, not the bullseye, the treble 20, if you're aiming for the kind of like, best sort of way to cover the subject. And so what they were basically saying about YouTube is that basically, actually, Elon Musk has put this Alex Jones guy back on, and apparently this Alex Jones guy is like a big deal because he's like one of the most. He's like kind of like the person who's like most controversial, who's been banned from platforms. So that Elon Musk putting him back on is like quite a significant thing. But then Jimmy Dore starts talking about rights on platforms, and this time he started talking about like the telephone, which is something that I'm sure I actually emailed him in and mentioned it about the telephone. When he started going into the subject, and because they weren't even saying, I got annoyed with the Hill program, because the Hill kept saying that YouTube are allowed to remove the videos. But I'm like, well, why are you saying that? They're not. They're actually breaking the law. What was cool is that Jimmy Dore program actually started saying that they are breaking the law. And now they're saying, like, well, basically, is what I was saying, like, it should be like the telephone, what you say down the telephone is your own business, not the telephone companies. You're paying for the line, And now Jimmy Dore's saying that. He's saying, YouTube and all of the platforms, basically, it should be like the telephone service, You tell you what to say or what not to say. But this is the thing. There's something else I want to add into it now, and I don't really want to go on for ages because, I've been talking for 3 minutes now. I'll try to get to the point. I'll probably send this into Jimmy Dore Show. I might even tag him in it, which is the next point I want to make, which is an important point that I made in some videos recently, looking at the Magna Carta and the Petition of Right. Because there was a guy who made a video about Magna Carta, and I think he's written a book about it and claiming that it's fake. And there's no evidence that it was actually real. But there's actually quite a lot of Magna Carta clauses in other older and earlier legislation, so I don't think it is fake, like the Petition of Right. And one of these clauses is that you can't be dispossessed or fined or have your assets or home or things taken off you without a lawful due process, right? So basically, the law, courts, juries, judges, proper legal due process, you can't have anything taken off you without a lawful due process, which is quite interesting when bailiffs come round, when you get a parking fine from a council. I think Verb's got letters through from Bath Council, and he kept ignoring him because they got his name wrong on there, and then they sent the bailiff to take his car. So he didn't pay this fine, or he hadn't paid it, but I don't know if they got a court order or not from a judge. They must have done. But then again, you know, some counties, chairs of the councils have got justices of the peace powers. Not all of them. Some of them, I think. But anyway, so the petition of right clause that says it's from Magna Carta, and it says that you can't have your things taken off you without proper lawful due process, right? And that clause they repealed it from the petition of right. You know, when they make these, you know, when they cancel out some legislations or remove some clauses, which they don't really do very often in major statutes. But I think it's this period around 1968. There's some of it, or it could be 86. I think it's 68. The late 60s, and they removed that clause, but the notation says underneath there's a reason why they said, unnecessary. But how is it unnecessary? It's necessary to make sure that, you know, people don't take your stuff out from you without lawful due process. You can say, well, they've got loads of other legislation in place. Yeah, no, but who says you've got to use it? You know, that particular statute is the thing that says that they've got to use the law, you know. And you say, well, all these other new modern laws might be intricate and valid for certain procedures, you know, criminal procedure rules, civil procedure rules, but who says it's got to be used? Well, where it says that you can't be, you know, they've got to use the law, is that statute, you know, coming from Magna Carta and petition of right. So, you know, it was kind of ridiculous. Now, what I was thinking is the thing with YouTube, it's not just free speech, right? And this is important for Jimmy Dore to understand, if I can get the message to him. And that is that, so all this, you know, that there's an American law, and they've been talking about it quite a lot, to do with the fact that, you know, YouTube can't get sued for, you know, this copyright. They're just a handler. They're like a, you know, middleman sort of thing, you know, for handling copyright claims and, you know, all these. But the thing is this. Firstly, there's loads of things that YouTube are doing that have got nothing to do with the claims from other entities, right? YouTube themselves, as a company, you know, they themselves can't commit crimes what originating from them, not from another person using the platform, or not from, you know, someone else's copyright material like Warner Brothers or, you know, Universal Studios or whatever. We're talking about YouTube staff. YouTube staff can't commit fraud, can't lie, and that's the thing that's happening. You know, they're triggering strikes when the actual strike isn't true. You know, their system is saying, oh, you know, this video is violating this or that, even in their policy. But if it isn't, then, you know, regardless of whether their policy applies or not, they're saying that there's something in your video to do with, you know, COVID or whatever, something like that. But there isn't, then they're creating a false statement. So they're actually they're making a false statement, a false claim against you. It's giving a false account, and they're taking something down through lying. But when they're making a statement that isn't true, well, it's giving a false statement. That's actually a crime, that false statement. So yeah, I've only just realised that as well now myself. It's making a false statement, you know. So that's criminal. And they're doing it in large numbers, and that should concern Paul Groves, you know, YouTube legal director. But then he'll say, oh, it's a system, you know, well, you need to get system better. Now, this is the thing. They've got such a big platform and such a lot of money and such, you know, millions of, you know, accounts. This is why they've got all these legal immunities, because, you know, apparently it's so, you know, one case, you know, could, you know, put the whole staff out of action, so they have to have some sort of immunity to operate. But what happens is then that's giving them a license to sort of have a system that doesn't work properly, because, I mean, if their system's triggering claims that aren't correct or are false claims, that's very, very concerning and worrying, because, you know, they can't have immunity from giving false statements, because that would be insane, you know. Now, if they say, oh, you know, it's Big Bertha, the big machine, the big YouTube, you know, the big YouTube AI central, whatever you want to call it, Skynet thing or whatever is, you know, just, you know, it's not our fault, you know. Well, he shouldn't have a big platform that is so big, dealing with so many millions of people, if it can't operate properly. Oh, we're always trying to improve it, we're always trying to fine-tune it. Yeah, well, it's not fine-tuned, is it? And you know, the deal with the government was that because, you know, they get this kind of immunity because, you know, it's not like Warner Brothers aren't YouTube and Universal Studios aren't YouTube and the users aren't YouTube, right? But YouTube makes a platform, they all use it. So it's not YouTube who's uploading videos, it's the public, and it's not YouTube who's got the copyright, it's the other thing. But they're just building us a big playground, a big platform, so we can go on there. That's why they've got immunity, really, because, you know, they're kind of like, you know, in the referee position, really. It's not, you know, I know that, you know, publishers can get sued and so forth to do with books, but, you know, it's a little bit of a different dynamic. But the thing is, when YouTube builds a machine or build an algorithm or a robot, and that is, and they're getting a hell of a lot of money for it, and that machine is not working properly, it's triggering things that aren't true, it's giving out false statements, there surely cannot be an immunity for that, because then it's almost like, you know, humans are making a machine, and then it's kind of like they've made a monster, really, because then they say, no, well, none of these humans are liable for making this machine monster, then just blame the monster. It's almost like those police robot dogs, you know, if those police robot dogs start biting people, they're meant to save people, not bite people, but then the police could just say, oh, well, it's not our fault, the dog's faulty. Well, then they'd get decommissioned, wouldn't they, straight away? You know, I think something happened in California with those satellite-controlled cars. They started using them on trial, and there was an accident, so they revoked them. I mean, it's quite serious if YouTube's giving out false claims. But the thing is, everyone's complaining to YouTube and appealing it, and then they get rejected, and then you badger their team on Twitter, and then they go have a look at it. It takes them a while. You keep annoying them until they go look at it, and then they look at it properly. Then they say, oh, yeah, you know, okay, we made a mistake. Well, I go, okay, you made a mistake. Well, how many people are you making a mistake for? And this is the thing. No court, as far as I know, this is what we want to get Robert F. Kennedy to do, has subpoenaed all of the complaints that YouTube have got on file. How many times have this been happening? And they haven't been telling the government. That's quite concerning. Now, this is the thing what I wanted to say to Jimmy Dore, is this, look, right, when Jimmy Dore is, you know, basically saying that, you know, these, you know, the film Terminator 2 Judgment Day, right? The whole way that everything's going at the moment with all these tech people is that they're trying to make machines that can record or make a video or an account of crimes and offences, automatically send you a fine, and then automatically want you to admit that you did it without going to a court and being guilty. It's like Judge Dredd or RoboCop or you know, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the T-2000, you know, with the glowing red eyes, you know, there's a machine. The machines are all making automatic judgment, and automatically, it's all automated, and there's no humans involved. And we know in court, the jury matters. It's what humans think about humans, and they can disregard the law. That's a bit of a nightmare for this whole system of cameras and facial recognition and AI. They want, like, you know, this whole China social point system or machine control and so forth. Because we're not machines, we're humans. And machines are measured by rule, and, you know, machines don't have a soul. Machines don't have forgiveness. Machines don't have religions. Machines aren't living creatures. And that's the difference. in a world that's governed by machines that measure everything and take measurements, it's almost kind of like, in a way, I mean, it's worse than having a headmaster with a ruler, because at least the headmaster's annoyed and angry. The machine's not even annoyed or angry. I mean, it's not even, it doesn't get happy, it doesn't get mad or annoyed. It just takes a measurement and that's it. You're done. Tough, you know, and, you know, I just can't imagine a future with a machine. You see, the laws are meant to be us, for us, policed by us, and then judged by us, not machines who make measurements. There is no negotiating, arguing, or anything with a machine. It's almost like a guillotine, isn't it? You don't argue with the guillotine, you know, if you pull the trigger on it, it just goes. So, you know, and therefore, I think it's quite serious, this whole YouTube, you know, taking channels down or giving strikes out. When it does, if you've done something wrong, fair enough, to their policy or whatever. But I'm not. That's without going into political rights and First Amendment. I'm just talking about, you know, if it's just regular, normal channel. But what I'm saying is, YouTube have been doing a lot of fraudulent and false claims, false accounting, false statements, and so they should be in trouble for that. You know, you can't have immunity for that, because at the end of the day, right? The thing is that, you know, the government are wanting to. What about when we make an error? Most of these fines and punishments are because of human error. I know there are some really bad criminals and nasty criminals, but a lot of these, you know, fines and fees, it's all to do with human error, right? Or not even if you did anything wrong now, just because they want to penalise you if you've got a certain thing now. It's not like you parked in the wrong place, or you parked for too long, or you know, you didn't do something in time, or you forgot. Now it's just because you've got a certain type of car. You like this type of car, or you got this type of car, or you want the type of house, or heating, or things like that. Penalised, penalties. Now it's just because of like your likes and dislikes, and they're trying to change what you should be choosing and having and what you shouldn't, which is ridiculous. Now, they're wanting a massive, huge machine that no human who made it is responsible or liable for what it does, like some sort of big beast in the cellar, you know, some sort of big beast behind the scenes. You know, it's actually committing fraud. It's giving false statements out, right? Yeah, we're the humans who are in error, who are getting fined, right? We're getting fined by the council for not parking there too long, or, you know, parking in the wrong place. So, but where's our immunity? This big machine that YouTube's got, they're claiming they've got immunity, but it's giving out false statements. But we haven't got immunity when we, you know, park somewhere for too long. You know, so they're making a criminal. They're making a criminal machine that's allowed to commit crime, which is hilarious. It's actually hilarious. Now, going back to the Magna Carta and the Petition of Right. Now, this is the other aspect of YouTube, what I don't like, and it's nothing to do with First Amendment specifically. There are First Amendment arguments which we've been through really already, and then there's the whole thing what I've just said about committing fraudulent statements, right? But then there's this other thing. Let's just think about your videos, right? So you've got all these videos that you've made, work's been put into them, your time, creativity, graphics, logos. Not everyone's got copies of every video they've made, because hard drive space and memory cards and Gmail's all limited, and it costs a fortune now. Some people think that their videos are safe on YouTube. You know, it's literally, you know, uploading gigabytes at a time. You know, 4 gigabyte video, 10 gigabyte video. You're just uploading them, and then they're all there on the channel. And you know, you think, well, they're safe, but when they're not safe, and then YouTube, if they just take your channel down, then they're gone. And this is the thing. With me, it's a little bit different, because it's an investigation. Some of those videos are evidence, important, serious evidence, campaign promotion. It's a petition campaign. It's a casework, and there are policing rights as well and so forth. So they've stolen my evidence and stuff, and that breaks the law for political and policing rights anyway. And they're not acknowledging that, we've even got those rights like Criminal Law Act. But let's just even think that, I wasn't using First Amendment rights or right to petition. Let's say that I wasn't even doing a political campaign or anything to do with, investigation, right? Let's say it's just a normal channel, like some entertainment channel or whatever. You've still got all your videos and you've still got all your work, right? And it's got a value to it, and you might not have spare copies, but they're saying, oh, but you signed up and agreed to our policies and so forth, right? But this is the thing. According to Magna Carta and the Petition of Right, you can't be depossessed of your assets, things, a house, car, I would say, your possessions and videos. Your videos are your thing. It's your thing. It's your work. And if you haven't got another copy of it, without due legal process. Now, they aren't a court, and this is getting back onto what Jimmy Dore was saying, with the whole thing with... Now, Jimmy Dore was using the telephone example. He was saying, you pay for the line, so, you can say what you want, they're not a judge and they're not a jury, so why are these platforms even taking people's, material down or saying what they can and can't say? It's none of their business, right? Well, because the elite kind of want to use their platforms to try control social order and discourse and try steer society, which is really not what we elect them for, Some councils have been wanting to try change people's behaviour, yet, they're only supposed to maintain the streets. But anyway, so what they're actually doing, even if you've just got a normal entertainment channel, is they're taking your things, they're depossessing you of your videos, of your assets. And I know that it's their platform, right? They made it, and in many cases, they provide it for free, right? But your videos, if you don't have a spare copy of them, and if you think that they're safe on there, fair enough if they've got a policy, but who would subscribe or sign up to a policy that was going to make a legal action or move on you through a policy? I mean, are they saying that is due legal process? It's not due process of law, is it? Because you haven't had a fair judgment by a federal judge or by a jury, and if you, this is the thing with the police, they get you to admit you did it or agree, and then they give you a fine. But it's a little bit like private car parks, isn't it? Black Belt Barrister was talking about private car parks where he will help you out. He's got a website that'll help you out if it's a private car park, but not, council, the Crown. If it's, private, car parks giving you a fine for being against their terms in that car park, but you agreed to their terms by using the car park, but they're fining you or clamping your car, he will help you out because apparently you don't have to pay it or whatever. It's kind of more like that situation because we're talking about, consent and policies. But, if you used a private car park and you didn't pay a fine in a private car park, can they go into your car and take all your things out of it, to pay the fine? And that is the difference. And I think that's a little bit like what the situation that Verbs was in when they came around to take his car off him. Bath Council sent the bailiffs round, But if it was privately owned, I don't think they could take his car or his things off him to pay the fine. If it's a private car park, I don't think they can take the car to pay the fine. And I think that's where Black Belt Barrister comes in with it. Because I think even if he went to court and then they say you owe him some money, maybe he could get a bailiff, but some of these fines apparently, you don't have to pay them. And I think that's what Black Belt Barrister is actually talking about, depending on what signage is in there and so forth. But notice that the private car park owner has to go to a court, though, and get an order, though, doesn't he? That's the thing. Now, I actually think that I don't think they have removed that Magna Carta clause from the Petition of Right, even though they say they have, because I don't think you can do it because maybe that's why they did do it. You see, this is the thing. If YouTube can depossess you of your videos, right, if you haven't got any spare ones, right, maybe removing that Petition of Right clause from Magna Carta so you can be depossessed without due legal process, maybe that's how they're secretly doing it. Because, maybe Bill Gates and, Googly Gaga Gang, whatever it's called, I just call them Ben and Jerry's. I don't know who the fuck runs Google. Google's meant to be, more deeply up the government's anal side than anything, secretly. But all I know is that it was some Ben and Jerry's duo who started it. Some, Russian guy and some American guy, like some ice cream thing. And the next thing, they're doing genetics and next level protein, God knows what, Google Maps. They're taking over planet Earth and doing secret handshakes with government. But the guys who own it aren't even the most popular person from Google who gets, in the news now is, Neil Mohan. Paul Groves is more well known than these two. These two, Sergey Brin, whatever. We don't hear about them. It's all Elon Musk. It's all Mark Zuckerberg. They managed to shadow it under the shadow barrier. But these are meant to be the worst culprits, and then all the Apple people. I think that's how they're doing it. I think that that's how they're doing a lot of other punishments as well. That they're kind of not official, not direct. And I think that I don't think they can take that clause away. I think that it because of the 1700 Act of Settlement, which is protect the rights of the realm and so forth. And that's what I called them out on with the World Health Organization as well. They were trying to take as